Hello, everybody, for Cyberbulls without Herbert. Here we are. We're having the keys. So please meet Jeff Lutz and obviously meet James from Invest Answers. And we're going to do this week's Cyberbulls. How are you doing?
Hey there. Good.
It's an exciting time for sure.
It is, right?
Yeah, it's a time, as we were talking before, when things really start happening, you start getting the cockroaches coming out of the woodwork. And that's what we'll talk a bit about today. Yeah. So
that is so true.
As you say, they're nervous. It's like, oh, Tesla's on the move. We gotta squash this thing before it gets too big. So.
And don't you feel every time we really have these, headwinds and these people getting so nervous and so aggressive and being so ridiculous, it's because things are actually moving on Tesla's side in the right direction.
Shout out to Ross Gerbil as well. He's really coping hard.
Life is tough, isn't it? Life is tough. So thank you very much, James, because you did all the preparation work. And I just have to play moderator here. And you and Jeff are going to walk us through. So I'm going to show you where we are. You can move these, right?
Yeah. Well, the theme I thought would be good for us is AI convergence, all of the crazy stuff happening, because there is a ton of great stuff. I think it's probably important. We sometimes, when I'm on, a month ago, I was on, the stock was at 340. And the month before that, it was at, I can't remember, 280 or something. And now it's up around 430. And you can tell a lot from this chart as to where we are. I think it's a good place because a lot of people are nervous. A lot of people aren't on the boat. They want to get on. Do they buy now or do they wait? And unfortunately, we've had this huge run up, similar to what we had back in November, December 2024. We ran up again. And basically what happens with stocks is everything mean reverts. So after a massive rampage from 220 to 475, it's going to take a breather. It's like going straight up a mountain. You stop, maybe you go down, get a glass of water, go back up again. So that's kind of where we are. And really, Jeff, as you and I were chatting earlier in the week, it's really a function of what catalysts come next. And that determines where we go. We know 2026 will be nuts. Right now, we're not sure what the next 10 weeks look like. But there will be some big news, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla just announced deliveries that apparently this is what a lot of the short-term, I would say, people in the market or analysts look at. And they were 10% ahead of expectations, even higher on others, and the inventory is at a record low. So I mean, I actually think it's almost too low. I think CERN had put something out that could be in the around 11-12 day area in terms of days of inventory, and a lot of that is honestly pure transit. So you're gonna have a great cash view in this quarter. And I think the big question is, I don't think people are sitting around in terms of the Tesla price action, like, are they going to be at this to the penny on earnings here or there? If they beat by a few pennies, is it a big thing one way or another? I mean, the big themes are around autonomy and robotics. And the question is the rest of the business throwing off enough cash, including this massive growth in energy, to fund Tesla's, what is now, we've always called it, it's coming. It's the future. It's here. There's robo-taxis now out there operating and picking up people, and they're not in their final state, but they will be soon. And so in terms of catalysts, I think to keep things real, I mean, we're a couple of weeks away from earnings. I'd have to, and then earnings is a couple of weeks before the shareholder meeting. So just keeping it totally real. I don't think Tesla is going to lay a turd into earnings. I don't think the commentary is going to be, I think the commentary is going to be quite bullish. Who knows? We'll see. Because again, there's these two pieces of the business. There's the current car business, which people that look at current multiples and trailing multiples, which you really shouldn't do with a growth company, but there are people that seem to select that and want to talk about that. there's a conversation for them. But that conversation for people that have even a bit of a longer time horizon, it's not forever. You just have to envision, where do you think Tesla is going to be 6, 9, 12 months from now? That's not a long time from now. And what does Tesla look like 6 to 9, even 12 months from now? So I think there's near-term catalysts with earnings, the investor shareholder meeting, and anything that gets announced or revealed there. And from there, this is growth in robotaxi, and honestly, Tesla setting up the next, call it 80% of the business, where they go with robotics and autonomy.
Yes, bear with me. I'm a little bit slower than Herbert with switching the screens. But you're completely right, Jeff. And I do believe actually we're going to have a fabulous earnings call, because obviously the delivery numbers were very good. And you're right, preparing for that shareholder vote, because as I explained last time, institutions vote on November 5th because they feel they have to have all the information over all this time before they cast their vote. So on October 22nd, when there is this earnings call, which of course we will listen, but the principal clients of earnings calls, normal earnings calls, not Tesla, are institutions, fund managers, hedge fund managers, who have to do their homework of listening to management and evaluating their situation. And they haven't voted at that moment yet. They will vote 2 weeks afterwards. We will then have 2 weeks after that the shareholder meeting. Their votes are still necessary. I am, like I said, cautiously optimistic on all the outcomes. But for example, XAI, our shareholder proposal, depends mainly on institutionals. We know that retail is very much for it. And I know Elon, or at least we all know from his tweets, that Elon is very much for it. So if he wants them to be, motivated, optimistic, as much into the Tesla game as we all are, this earnings call is going to be fabulous. Now, having said that, whenever I predict something, the opposite happens. So just be careful with whatever we say. But I do see the next couple of weeks in a very bullish scenario. And we can go back to your charts. If I can click on it. How do I do this now? Just give me a second. Here we are. Bear with me. It's going to go slow. Don't tell Herbert how slow I am.
No problem. This is probably the next, I think, a very profound topic. I'm sure you all saw this following Elon Musk, but I'm trying to understand, he often speaks in code. And before we move on from the earnings call coming, I think there could be a couple of surprises between the amount of free cash flow, maybe accelerated margins, maybe an Easter egg regarding FSD uptake, a whole bunch of bottom line attribution, which could really boost things quite a lot. But he does seem very confident, and this little tweet here of his shows exactly that. And reading between the lines is like, what exactly is he getting at here? Obviously he's talking about the race to AI, AGI, ASI, whatever you want to call it. But I always say winner takes most. And he says, in a technology race, the company that innovates fastest wins. And they innovate fast. And Jeff, maybe you can chime in on how they iterate and how important iteration is in this world. But his joke here, all you need are 1 billion AI chips, a terawatt of power, and 100 million robots. Like, he's kind of tongue-in-cheek. But at the same time, it's his roadmap. It's aimed at anybody. There's probably a subtle flex that XAI and Tesla are chasing this dream. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, and those AI chips, that includes all the inference that's Tesla designed and then fabricated by a partner, where Tesla is the NVIDIA in that relationship. And then there's, of course, the training side. He's working on unblocking those bottlenecks. So he thinks he's got a plan in terms of his deal with Samsung, and honestly getting one step closer to the design and fabrication of inference. And this is where a lot of the action is going to be happening with real world AI products. So Tesla and Elon have moved one step closer to that with their deal with Samsung in Texas. And then I think we're going to start seeing some announcements over the next period of time regarding unblocking power, and then what's the plan around unblocking power. So I think the sky's the limit here. I think it's going to be a pretty exciting time, And this is the path to getting the AGI, and Elon is going to. There's just a lot of hustle involved, but there's also this cross coordination across so many different things where he doesn't accept the standard answer on anything. Nothing, everything has to come down to first principle and laws of physics of like, okay, how long does it take that thing to get from that point of the earth to here? Well, what does physics say? And that's how every element of the schedule, that's how everything is dealt with. And I think sometimes that confuses people of like, he's late or he lied or no, this is what happens in tech. And we'll talk a little bit more about the vehicle announcements this week. But as conditions and things change, the point of this post is, if you're agile, you're quick, and you out innovate, it doesn't matter. Here's all of our patents. Here's, we're not going to give you by the way, we're not going to give you our process know-how and our design know-how, but here are our patents, and we're on to the next thing. So I see these announcements. About someone's doing a Model Y competitor that's going to start launching in the middle or end of next year. I always ask people the question, well, where do you think Tesla is? Everybody thinks of Tesla now and this company launching a year from now, and they want to compare it to whatever Tesla is doing in 2025 in October. And you really have to think about where's Tesla going to be in October 2026. And it's pretty scary if you think of a fully ramped up Cybercab product line, a brand new way of producing a vehicle. You think of full-on robo-taxi in maybe dozens, if not hundreds of cities and going global. And you think about this whole personal FSD network of the car driving unsupervised. And it's kind of scary if you look at where the competition is today, and they're kind of aiming at Tesla 2020, Tesla 2023, when when by the time they get there, Tesla is going to be several years ahead. It's almost like that gap is actually widening.
Yep, exactly.
So well said. So James, I think you did discuss the affordable car next in your slides, right? And the announcements this week. Let's go there.
It was basically, I actually wrote a Substack on it because a lot of people were disappointed. And I think I said the day before, I said, if we get a 40K price, the price is going to tank because people are going to see that as a miss. But what they fail to understand is just one little segment from the Substack here is the size of the market, the TAM, and how getting below 40,000 or even a little bit less explodes the actual addressable market to, the $40,000 car is, 68 million households, and a $45,000 car is 62 million households. I mean, the market is now so big. Even if they went to a $25,000 or $30,000 or $35,000, they wouldn't be able to satisfy the demand. This is the very basic thing that people don't get. But it gets even better, because what I tried to do is compare it to kind of the other vehicles. I can't remember if I popped a chart in here. No, I didn't. I forgot to. But the average cost of other cars. But they have completely undercut the competition. Not only with a better car with better range, better reliability, better technology, safer, quieter, faster, better range, but they've also, it drives itself. Okay, the competition is toast. They're probably scratching, how the heck did they pull $5,000 to $7,000 out of their cogs for this thing? And we haven't even seen the lease deals yet, which I know will be wild, especially as rates come down. They're going to be able to sell as many of these things as they want, which will take us to our next story afterwards. But the point is, and I'd like to hear from you, Alexandra, and Jeff too, did people not understand how profound this move was?
Yeah, well, obviously not. I think there was a lot of personal disappointment, which I can completely understand. I mean, don't tell my 5 kids, but I was telling myself, if this comes out at 30,000, I'm going to buy 5 of them for my 5 kids for Christmas. And now they're not getting them at 40,000. There's just no way around it. And so the way, this was set up, I think there was a little bit too much hype from Tesla's side. The affordable car, if you look at earnings calls over the last 3-4 quarters, it was always a topic. It was a topic for, being produced or being ready for production end of second quarter. Then we didn't see it. Lots of people had misunderstood that that would actually be the launch date. It wasn't the launch date because obviously there was the IRS credit expiring in America. And then the other thing is that lots of people have not the vision of understanding of what's happening in Europe, what's happening in China. China had an extremely good quarter and will have an even better quarter Q4. Take it home. I'm absolutely certain about that. The Y long is an absolute hit there, and now we have 3 months to commercialize it. We're having in Europe an uptick, except for Germany. I mean, it breaks my heart that I have to tell the Germans how stupid they are, but there we are. So there we are. France, it's the best-selling car. Sweden, let's not even talk about it. Norway, let's not even talk about it. I mean, wherever you look, the Model Y is the best-selling car. And in Berlin, if my sources are correct, they are starting production beginning of November. Okay, so Europeans who are very sensitive to price will be able to get the more affordable cars. Chinese who are very sensitive to price may get it, and for sure the Americans get it. And you're completely right, this is already a bigger TAM. And us as a shareholder, would you want them to sell us a car at loss just because it would make my 5 kids happy, or would you want them to maximize profits? Now I tell you one thing, I want them to maximize profits, and tough luck for my 5 kids. So there we are, and I didn't see all this drama coming. Actually, it's one of the rare moments where I just shut down X for 24 hours and thought, oh my God, I mean, if everybody is just so dramatic, they can do it without me. And people just don't realize, first of all, the car market is a global market. This car will be a hit in so many markets. There's no doubt about it. There are people who need and want that. There's stuff I don't understand. If you still have a glass roof, why did you put the cover below it? Will there be retrofits where they can take out the cover? There are little bitsies that, doesn't make sense to me, but who am I? I mean, I'm in no way intelligent enough to understand, how HVAC may be a good factor of having not the glass roof and whatever. So what the heck? But this is a little stone in the long path of Tesla to an AI company. And now they have a full range of products in all the price ranges they want to be. It's uncomparably good compared to any other car out there. And in a couple of weeks, we're not even talking months yet, it will be unsupervised. I mean, this is completely crazy. You'll be in your car, be on your computer, be in the back seat and drive to wherever you want to do. What the heck, the car be 38, 39,000? It doesn't matter what the heck, the car having a glass roof or not. All these things are so insignificant. And the other thing I predict is Q4 will have tremendous numbers. We're having so much backlog of people who still ordered in Q3 Model Ys, and as Jeff explained, there is little inventory, so they have to keep going, right? We're having first deliveries of the more affordable cars. We're going to have a tremendous Q4 in China, and I do predict we're having a tremendous Q4 in Europe. So honestly, I'm very, very confident. And anyway, it just doesn't matter to me anymore, because where revenues will come from in a year has nothing to do with car sales.
Exactly. Jeff, would you be able to shed some light on how hard it is to rip COGS out and the impact of using the existing? Because I love the way you tell the audience about how they can use the existing capital at work and get much more return on that same infrastructure.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things. I didn't actually know what people were expecting. Tesla is spending probably $1 billion or more retooling, a couple of $1 billion retooling for Cybercab. This is what you do when you develop a new product line. You need capital for R&D. You need investment for R&D. You need capital for the prototyping effort, and then you need new CapEx for production. And these are multi-billion-dollar efforts sometimes, depending on the size and scope and the amount of change in the product. So Cybercab is a whole new product. And that's what Tesla is investing in to make a more affordable vehicle. So between that product getting into mass production and getting to scale, you have another set of products called the 3 and Y that are basically between 40 and 50K. And what Tesla did with this, so you have to keep these numbers in mind. So they're trying to get below 30K with the Cybercab, and then you've got the current offering before this week was between 40 and 50K. So you have this gap between 30 and 40K essentially. And what they've done is they've produced a Model 3 starter or standard edition at the 36 level, and a Model Y at the upper 39 level. So they brought the window down, somewhere between $5,000 to $6,000. And by the way, Tesla offers different trims on new product designs pretty much every other year. They've done a standard Model 3 before. They've done a rear-wheel drive standard version of the Y. They've done these things before. This set, they've taken a little bit more. This is a bigger jump in terms of product change than what they've done before. But I don't know what people are expecting. If they brought it down further, there would be insufficient gap between the start of the Cybercab and where these things will land. They will continue to reduce COGS on the 3Y family. That whole window starting at 36,000 going up to 50, that will continue to come down, because every year they should be able to take somewhere on the order of 8 to 10% out. That doesn't happen in perpetuity, but it does happen over the lifespan of a vehicle if you are keeping the volumes up, and they are. So in terms of CapEx leverage, your question, the new standard vehicles being introduced using the same line CapEx and using the same large robots and leveraging a lot of the same CapEx is actually going to more fully utilize that equipment. If it's more fully utilized and it's not sitting there idle, it's going to absorb more of the fixed cost of the building. So anything in that building, anything in the Fremont building, anything in the Austin building, everything in the Berlin building that's being built will actually come down in price because the CapEx is being more heavily utilized. So the premium 3 and Y, that will come down in price as well, because more of the CapEx is being absorbed across greater volumes. So this is a good thing. These are what you want to do as an OEM, is you want to take your cost structure down in the areas that your consumers cannot see, feel, touch. Now, I know everybody's got an opinion on some of the changes that have been made on the standard Y edition, but if you look at any auto product line, you look across the base, the thing you open the newspaper for and said, I want to go look at this car and go to a dealership, this ICE vehicle. When you walk in the door versus what they try to sell you, they take some fairly dramatic swipes in terms of what's available in the base model versus what's available in more standard and premium versions. And people tend to buy the upgrades once they're in the process. Tesla is very transparent. It's up on the site. This is what you get at this price. And then here are other versions of the vehicle at a different price point. So long story short, I think the big takeaway for me is I was always expecting somewhere around a $4,000 to $6,000 reduction in COGS. I didn't think they would get 10,000 out or 7, 8, 9, 10,000 out, because that's a fundamentally different vehicle. The COGS on the 3 and Y globally are probably in the $32,000 to $34,000 range, as it is, depending on where it's built. I'm sure Shanghai can get below 30,000 on some of the models. So once you start saying, I want to go beyond 20, 30, 40% of the car's COGS, you are designing a new car, and that's what the Cybercab is. So if you're sitting back and you run the P&L for Tesla and you're the CEO and you have to allocate capital, well, you have this CapEx that's allocated for 3 and Y that's underutilized. So if you more fully utilize that capital, the production costs from all those vehicles are going to come down. And then you have all this CapEx you're investing to build the Cybercab. And then, of course, you have your CapEx for Optimus and AI. Why would you go throw more capital at yesterday's hardware approach versus what you're about to unveil and start production in a couple of months with the Cybercab? that doesn't pass the common sense test. So for me, a positioning thing of Cybercab is going to be expensive when it starts. Any new product that starts production is going to be on the higher end. So why would you want to crowd that and then bring these vehicles even? So I think what they've done is appropriate. You can argue. I don't agree with everything Tesla does, by the way, but I do agree that they know a lot more than I do or we do on the outside in terms of what their decisions are. And they're pretty quick though to make changes if they need to make changes if they recognize something in the market.
Yeah, and it reminds me. Sorry, James. It reminds me of the moment, I don't remember, was it 6 or 9 months ago when we heard in the press, it was in the information, that there were some leaks of people telling the journalists at the information that Elon had scrapped the affordable model. And then, obviously that wasn't true. But I think what they did, or what that was the moment where they decided, okay, there will be a standard version, but it will be at, I'm exaggerating, minimum effort. It will be a little bit, modified. But where we want to go is the Cybercab. Where we want to go is the bot. Where we want to go is on full self-drive. So while we will, compromise on bringing this one out, it is not gonna mobilize all 4 factories in a way that a new car would. And this affordable hatchback 25,000 died at that very moment, because it would have just made the whole thing pause instead of advancing to the real goals.
Yeah, and I will tell you one more thing. In product development world, a lot can change in a 12 to 18 month design cycle. The decisions you make, that's why Elon talks about speed that James brought up earlier. You want to be able to go from concept to production as quickly as possible, so you can either fail fast or you can not be disrupted in the marketplace. But what's happened in the last year and a half, we've had massive geopolitical disruption, from export controls to tariffs. The export controls are crushing. Okay, there are certain things that China, for example, are basically putting on an export license and making it very difficult to acquire supply. If supply is difficult to acquire, the cost of it goes up. Okay, that's basically how it works. And then with tariffs, we know what's happening with tariffs. The price sensitivity of doing a very low cost vehicle is extremely high. You can't have a miss on this wire harness or this piece of electromechanical componentry because you're bringing it in from South Korea, you're bringing it in from China. Even though Tesla is mostly localized in the US, you have 10 to 15% of that is sourced outside of USMCA or outside of the US. There are significant tariff implications. So I'm not making excuses for them, because I don't think there's a reason to make an excuse. I think Tesla set out to produce lower cost vehicles, and we did. Would I have liked to see them $1,000 or $2,000 lower? Sure. But I think like trying to get them to like $30,000, that would have caused a huge problem, okay, with the Cybercab and disrupted the portfolios sitting between those. And I think it would have cost a lot more CapEx to do and get to that. So, I mean, I think it's debatable. That's fine. That's what X is for. That's what these platforms are for. I think people should open and debate. But I think be respectful and be fact-based. Don't say like everybody's lying or this or that. I don't understand that. If you've been in the product development world, you know that things can change over a period of time and that alter your decisions. I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
That is so right. Well, let's go back to James's wonderful preparation. What is going to happen?
Well, this is so interesting because people think, oh, well, Tesla blew their load in Q3. They're going to sell nothing in Q4 because everybody FOMOed in because of tax credits. But as Jeff said, it's a global business. This is just in one country. Second of all, a lot of people don't actually have access to the tax credit like me. I can't get it. A lot of people typically buy Tesla.
Me neither.
Qualify. Exactly. That's not a huge problem. But what's super interesting here is what people are missing is not only do we now have affordable models that are going out all over the world, we also have all the good stuff here, and you guys can chime in because I know you probably discussed it before. You got the Model Y Long Shanghai. A ton of that was pre-ordered. At least 9 or 10,000 are going to come in from that were sold in Q3 into Q4. We have the boost from the late September orders that weren't fulfilled because of the tax credit. There's a ton of those as well. Then we got the cheaper model with unlimited TAM, half of all US households. And then the uptick in FSD and megapacks. Megapack could be a blowout quarter in Q4 because I know every data center on Earth now wants to replicate the model that Elon has with these things to stop blowing up their GPUs by smoothing out their electricity. And there's so much more as well. The bundle package. I think Q4, people fear it'll be terrible, but it's always the best quarter. And I think the fear about how bad Q4 will be is completely overblown. Just my thought. And shout out to Warren Redlich as well, who put this together.
Completely agree. And I think that sums up very well what we said to earlier questions. Jeff, you got anything to add here, or we progress to the next topic?
No, I mean, I think James said it correctly. The only thing I would add is that in the US is one region, the $7,500 credit goes away, but the incentive for a tax deduction on the interest you pay on an auto loan, 80% of people that buy a car in the US finance it. And I think everybody qualifies for this. Now it changes and it derates based on your income level. I think they set, single at 100K and married head of household or something at 200K, but it doesn't go to zero if you're over those numbers. They just derate the deduction. But this could actually be, it's up to $10,000, I believe, that everyone should go to the IRS Gov and check it out. But it's active. It's retroactive back to January of 2025. So that's not talked about a lot. So that goes away. The $7,500 credit goes away, and this new tax incentive on the interest on your car loan comes in. I think and again, it's for cars that are assembled or have made in USA status, and that's Tesla. 100% of the Teslas you buy in the US have that status and qualify for that. One more thing, there are very strong rumors coming out of the White House that they are going to do some more relaxation on tariffs for the auto industry, and Tesla is going to be included in that. So I think Tesla's seen the least amount of damage from tariffs, but it's not a non-zero thing. So if there's more relief on tariffs, because these tariffs are gutting the U.S. I'll just say it. They're a significant problem. The input tariffs are a significant problem. So if relief comes there, that's another catalyst. And so anyway, I think there's actually a lot more going on as it relates to car production and the ability to sell cars than everybody just dreaming of this cliff in September 30th. That it probably won't be as much of a cliff.
That is true. Now, James, you had a slide on Sweden. We know that.
Yeah.
This is very exciting.
Very exciting. And I drive a lot in the snow. People think, FSD doesn't work in the snow. It actually works really well in the snow. And I don't even know how it works in the snow. I can't see the lines in the road, but it can. So that's huge news. But I want to spend just a second on the sentient FSD 14 that came out as well this week. I mean, so much come out this week, it's wild. But this is a guy called Chris, ChatGPT 21 is his handle. And he just talked about the social sequence of going to, I think, a McDonald's drive-through and how the car knew exactly how far to pull forward. Literally, you see all the parking garage videos. It knows exactly wherever the thing is. You take the ticket or put in the credit card or whatever else. But this is incredible. It knew when to pull forward, exactly where to pull forward to. And at the final window, it leaves at the exact moment his card is returned, not when the food is handed over. So they give him the food first and then wait for the card to come out. I mean, this is mind-blowing. Somebody tell me how Waymo would ever be able to do this. The answer is not. But this is what Elon was referring to. I was looking for a concrete example, what he talks about by sentient, i.e. the ability to think like a human organism. And this is it. One of the examples. This blew me away, and there's tons of them as well, not just this. So I thought that was a moment worth sharing with the audience too.
Yeah, it looks like it's going through tighter spaces. It looks like it's being a little bit more responsive in construction areas. It's still a supervised system, so you should still be ready to cover the wheel and the accelerator or or break in the vehicle, but people are definitely noticing significant improvements in terms of its ability to reason locally in the in the vehicle versus either avoiding it or doing the wrong thing or just kind of stopping. It's a little bit more bolder, but it's making the right decisions.
Exactly. So anyway, enough at FSD.
Oh,
this is a juicy one.
Bernie.
It's funny. I've been talking for years about what I call UBI Nation, which is, I think, in the future, a lot of the population could possibly be dependent on universal basic income. But this Bernie Sanders fellow came out, who is a very strong socialist. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But he dropped a video saying AI will wipe out the entire working class. And he came out with these solutions like a robot tax, not a robo-taxi, a robot tax, 30-hour work weeks, giving workers an equity stake in companies, maybe that make robots, and have worker representation on boards. Sounds like a union. And UBI. It is kind of wild because I think over the next, well, first of all, I think he's wrong with working class. I think working class are going to be fine. The white collar is the class that's going to be hit first, in my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think. Also, over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to see radical change. We're going to see AI, AGI, crypto-related stuff go to the moon, and huge changes. Big asset inflation, and as they print more money for this UBI, there'll be more asset inflation, so hard assets will go up more and more. It's all very circular. We're seeing a lot of circular stuff happening around the convergence of AI hitting the world. But I thought this was super interesting.
It is, and I think he actually, I mean, I don't like his solutions, but I think he has a point, right? There is already, you already see it with two groups of people. One is college grads. They have a very tough time finding new jobs just because companies are currently stuck in the situation where they already have enough employees, feel that AI is replacing some of them. Why would they now recruit younger people that, may be replaceable soon as well, but on top of it, make it more difficult for them to let go afterwards. So they are feeling it. And the second one, you're right, is the white collar middle management. This middle management that, I'm sorry, I find so annoying. I hate this middle management level in all big companies where, they are not doing the real work. They are not taking the real decision. They're just a communicator elevator in the middle of it. Middle management is going to be replaced just because it won't be necessary anymore. All this information flow, all this will just be automized, and it's a good thing. So there will be people who will be made redundant, and they will have to find other ways of earning money or have some way of universal income. And whereas Bernie is right, is this has to be financed, and it has to be, if the world is just, it has to be financed in one way by this gain in productivity of the bot business, right? The bots are going to make us so much more efficient, and hence the pie will become bigger. So part of that pie has to come back to people who are less efficient. But you shouldn't, I feel you shouldn't see it like that. We have, for Thanksgiving, told all our kids who are coming for Thanksgiving that we're going to spend a Thursday afternoon in a meeting with, this is the moment to be entrepreneurial. This is the moment to see needs for whatever apps or whatever businesses. And I want my children to concentrate on that, even though they may be currently in an employed situation. They probably won't be anymore in 2, 3, 4 years, right? And it may look scary because you would love to cling onto your job, you've been used to it, but this is the moment to launch businesses, to launch new ideas. And there have never been so many tools to do it, and there have never been so many clients to buy your products and services. So if you're stuck in this old world where you think, oh my God, my job may go away, what do I do? Where will the money come from? Yes, we have to find and address a solution, and I don't have one. And I think this should actually be much more a subject currently in our society than it is. But if you are in a proactive way, and I think we all should, and we should, surround ourselves with the best people that are in this proactive mood, because if they are good, it comes down to us. Don't get stuck with the people that are at the moment sclerosed and fearful, because that will make you sclerosed and fearful. So if you are with those people, and if you walk around this world with open eyes, you see opportunity like never before, and you can actually turn these opportunities into businesses with much more ease than ever. I was listening yesterday to the Brighter with Herbert channel discussion between Joe Buckley and Larry, and I highly recommend to everybody to listen to it. It is really highly interesting on a lot of subjects, historical relevances, but also what Joe is currently doing with his business. And he said in half a day he had terms and conditions for his website. He had a product. He had the product rollout. Stuff that used before take months were now done in half a day. And once you understand where we already are with AI and where we are going, if you don't capitalize on ideas, if you don't walk around in this world with open eyes thinking, okay, what is missing? What would be nice to have now? And then coalesce with the right people to make it happen. If you don't know how to use AI, find somebody who can. We're actually going to build a better world, and we're going to build more entrepreneurs. And I think that's where the solution will come from.
Bingo.
I think it's well said. Productivity's going to increase, but the question is the pie growing, and is there more things for people to do that they could have never gotten done before? If you have an idea that involves getting an app built, some people were just stopped there, and they're like, I don't know how to get an app built. I don't know how to do X, Y, Z. So I think you both have stated this really well, and I think this is going to be disruptive, but I also don't think it's going to be as chaotic as people have seen. There's been many transitions that have occurred over the last, call it 100 to 200 years in tech. This will be one of the bigger ones, but I do think we have to take and focus on what can we do with this amount of increased productivity that was not possible before.
That is exactly it.
Ooh.
There you go. Another one of our lovely
another fun story that keeps people worried and anxious, and our job is to help people keep calm. This was the latest that actually triggered a dip in the price. Shares pre-market tanked because the US probes into nearly 3 million Tesla vehicles over FSD traffic violations. Now, when you dig into it, and I did, because it's important to be aware, is there a problem here or what? There were something like 14 incidents with actual crashes, and then there were 58 total incidents. I think only 14 crashes, but that spans 10 years, 3 million cars. That's 5 billion miles. And that's, when you do the math, that's one report per 86 million miles, which I would call a spit in the bucket. So it's usual regulatory drama. And then they have the statistic that shows that FSD is 10x safer, at least even the old versions, 10x safer than a human driver. And FSD has helped avoid thousands of crashes. I personally have been saved twice by FSD, once in the Model X in a huge rainstorm, and once in the Cybertruck coming back from LA, nearly went into deer in, what's that place with the half dome, on the way back. 2 deer in the middle of the road at dusk. I wouldn't have seen them, and I came around a corner. Boom, car stopped. So I know for a fact it stops crashes, but I think this is ridiculous. People shouldn't be concerned. What do you guys think?
Completely.
Yeah,
I mean, and so out of
go ahead,
proportion.
Alexandra.
No, I just said it's so out of proportion when you compare that with issues, in the whole world, where just in the US there are 85,000 incidents per day. We're talking about 14 crashes over all the time with old FSD software, not with the current FSD software. Yeah. This is just, and when that's what we said at the beginning, when this FUD boils up, you just know there are people really worried. It's always been like that. I don't know whether they want the stock lower or whether they're really worried for their own jobs and for their own survival. I don't know what it is. It's completely ridiculous, but it is just coming up. And you will have all these in Germany at the moment. I've seen that. So on the Tesla parking lot, when the cars roll off and then get tested, Tesla employees drive them relatively quick and may not honor the stop signs within the parking lot of the private company, right? And I don't know which idiot found this out. This is making headlines now for the third day in a row. This is a non-story, but it's just this whole FUD. And I don't know whether it's competitors, if you even can call them competitors anymore doing this, or whether it's journalists or whoever it is. They're out at it, smearing us again. It doesn't matter. Let's set the record and move on.
Yes. I mean, in the end, it is how it's the issue is how it's perceived. NHTSA's job is we have cars on the road, and if there's something related to their safety or performance that is not perceived to be not per a standard, people have the ability to register complaints, and they have the ability to go and research those complaints. So I think people need to just take this in phases. First off, we are witnessing the terminology, like watching the sausage being made. That's what we're witnessing right now. NHTSA opens investigations all the time. I shared out today that they investigated 2 other companies that are doing, self-driving and robotaxi services. They open an investigation. They do their work. They should be considering things. First off, to James's point and your point, Alexandra, there's no denominator in this article or the way it's posted. There are incidents. There are issues of not obeying a traffic signal. But when you look at how humans drive, and if we knew the denominator for the incident rate for them not obeying them, or them being involved in a traffic incident, I hope when NHTSA goes through this and they find, well, wow, this automated system is actually working better. Now, can we just focus on the actual defects that occurred and make sure, since these things may have happened 12, 18, 24 months ago, whenever they happened, can we just make sure that the advancements in Tesla's models, they have now actually closed these? Because you just want to be, there's nothing wrong with continuous improvement, and there's nothing wrong with getting better. Where there is a problem or there is an issue is not proceeding towards what is the greater good for the usage of that product. And the greater good is to have automated driving that performs better than humans. You want to work on the imperfections, that's fine, but you actually want to accelerate automated driving when it's performing as it is in Tesla's situation. So I think that's what's going to happen. We're watching the sausage being made. An investigation will occur, but lots of investigations will occur. Tesla will work with regulators like they do everywhere in the world. They will address the problems, and the regulators will say, okay, based on this software release or based on these changes, we have closed this investigation. That's how it's going to play out.
Exactly. Well said. I just thought the statistics were wild as to how obscure these cases were. It's like 89 million miles per crash. So, anyway, enough
kind of up
that.
there. Yeah.
There is something that is very much on my mind, and I always try and think about where things are going, and I'd like to pick your brains on this one. This is what I call AI convergence. So there's a number of different components to this. First of all, do you think, Alexandra, Tesla will get that stake in XAI based on the votes?
Not so quick. So let me try to explain what this is all about. So Gully, about a year ago, asked that you have a stake. Elon is favorable, but said it has to go through the board. It has to become a shareholder vote. Long story short, by July this year, it looked like it would already be in the proxy just like that. And then end of July, in the earnings call, it was unmistakable that they need actually shareholders to propose it. So we did that. One of the shareholders was chosen because he sent the letter first with the right documentation, and that's why we're in there. The board says they're not giving any recommendation. I have the feeling, that's me personally, the board wants nothing to do with it. They've had enough with Solar City. They don't want to touch this. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to have to deal with two Elon companies. They think the 36 or 39 billion we currently have as cash are good the way they are and are needed for everything, the expansion that's necessary. And so my feeling is they would love this subject to just go away. Now, if this vote doesn't get more than 50%, that is perfect for them, because then they will have said, well, shareholders proposed it, we put it on the agenda, they didn't vote for it, the subject's gone. If we get more than 50%, they have to consider it, but it is only an advisory vote. They are not obligated to do it. They are asked to consider it. And to consider it is actually a very tough job, because it depends on evaluation. It depends on, how do you structure it? Is it going to be a share swap? Is it going to be a cash transaction? What does Elon want? What does Tesla want? That may be two different things. And it will actually be really important that the board documents how independent from Elon they took it. Now, do understand Elon can actually vote in this proposal, right? And him with his 14.5% is going to have a big stake in our way towards the 50%, right? But even if we get above 50%, now if we get really clearly above 50%, let's say we get 65 or more percent, well, then I think the board has to really consider it and come up with real reasons not to do it. It could very well be, I have no certainty in either way, but it could very well be that we will have to vote a second time on it afterwards, once they have thought it through how they want to do it, how they want to structure it. And this doesn't have to necessarily wait a complete year again. It could be just a quick shareholder vote on just this subject, but it could very well be that that is necessary, because they really want to cover themselves. They really don't want to be the ones who push it by themselves. So do we get it? If there is an overwhelming consideration now, probably. 100% I really can't say, but probably. If it's just about 50% below it, we will certainly never hear about it anymore. And I think that would be a big relief for the board, because, this is one of those subjects. Whatever you do as a board member, you'll make people unhappy in one way or the other. So it's by far not a slam dunk, and we'll see what happens. This is going to be very interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think for me, this is super clear about this convergence, James, which you originally brought up, and Alexandra took us through how this could be handled from a shareholder perspective. Tesla powers XAI. That's inexplicable. You brought it up earlier in the show. Tesla engineers seeded XAI. XAI is going to be the brain in your vehicle, the brain that you're going to be speaking and interacting with, and it's going to be the brain that you're speaking and interacting with. And I believe at some point, merging with the control of these robots, whether they're Optimus robots, bipedal robots, or robots with wheels. You're going to be in a robotaxi. You're going to say, hey, could we go a little faster? Can we go around that construction? And you're going to want to be able to have those two worlds of physical real world AI and LLM AI working together in a safe manner. And because you're going to want that superhuman reasoning to couple with the physical real world AI movement of the product. So I see inextricable links between these companies and what they're building. And if you study the history, it is alleged that Elon tried to, at one point, as part of Tesla, buy OpenAI when he was, original founder of OpenAI, and figuring out how this thing gets funded, how it proceeds, is its future set or not. I believe he tried to, at one point, acquire OpenAI and bring those assets into Tesla. Again, this was many years ago. Yeah. So anyway, it's strange credulity to me to think that, oh, these things they're different. There's no reason these things should be together. To me, I understand what happened in the beginning. I understand the flexibility you have with managing a private startup and how quickly you can move. but there's a lot of reasons, and to me, the biggest reasons are power and capital allocation. Remember in the three things Elon brought up, James, where you said you need, a terawatt of power, a billion chips, and
100 million robots.
And 100 million robots. All of those things are XAI and Tesla. They're all linked together.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, you see, they just did a round yesterday to have another 20 billion. So there is a cash need, right? I mean, Elon's always saying, no, we currently don't need cash. I mean, excuse me, you don't get 20 billion if you don't need cash. But I also thought yesterday when I saw that, I thought, oh, that means Tesla investing is a far moment away, right? If he would have thought on November 5th, this has a high probability of going through, and then push the board, whatever, and it would go quickly, let's say before the end of the year, I'm just throwing out something now, I'm not sure he would have taken 20 billion now, right? Because you don't want to water it down. You want to keep as much as possible, and he has a lot of it. And there's the other aspect of being this cross investment, other than everything Jeff said, and you're so right, Jeff, that this should have happened so much earlier. And I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, and I'm not mad about it, I'm sad about it. But the one thing that's clear is, if he would have expected major money coming from Tesla buying into XAI, he wouldn't have accepted yesterday 20 billion. That was my immediate reaction to it. I just, either it will take much longer, or he knows the board is retropedaling as quickly as they can.
Yeah. That's well said. And it's also better late than never. But the other thing that I always say now is, because I'm obsessed with this whole convergence of AI and all the different facets that are in Musk Industries, the synergy is like nothing I've ever seen. I put together kind of a little slide which kind of dovetails into exactly what Jeff said. If you could share that for a second. This one here is just some of the pieces that I see. I mean, the convergence of Tesla and XAI's data integration, the data moat that Tesla has from all the vehicles driving for all those years, the AI models with edge inference that's coming with AI4, AI5, AI6, the silicon innovation that they do, the stake in XAI, hopefully that happens. I mean, there's nothing but moats and nothing but synergy, nothing but vast real world data from vehicles and Optimus robots. And again, it's just incredible how it all works together. And I do see people like Jensen from NVIDIA, he's betting a lot of money on everything out there. He's throwing money left, right, and center because they have an embarrassment of riches. But now he needs to hedge his OpenAI bet, because it's been proven already. Elon, in a very short 24-month window of time, has beaten them. More coherent compute, better AI, better LLMs, better coding software, you name it, all across the board. But I think this is all powerful. Jeff, is there anything like this or remotely close to this on the planet?
No, the companies like NVIDIA and OpenAI are trying to create it. First off, NVIDIA is wildly successful in what they're doing, and Jensen is going to be one of the greatest CEOs of all time. OpenAI is trying to create a products, hardware, AI device group, a robotics group. They're talking about doing potentially humanoid robotics. Of course, they have to oversee the construction of all their data centers. So there's these companies that are trying to do it. Meta is of course a great social media company, great advertising company, and they are trying to do the hardware side of it. And of course, they have to bring up massive data centers as well. But when you hear from people in the industry, and you hear from people like Jensen that talk about the ability to marshal these resources and deliver the schedule for the convergence of these things faster than anyone else, it's not as simple as ordering the chips and then hiring a construction firm to build your data center. There's a lot of things that happen between those two things. And having that all under one roof and having that vertically integrated is very powerful. I think we're fortunate, even though financially we're not vertically integrated with XAI, we are vertically integrated in terms of personnel and leadership between those two businesses. So I think Tesla and XAI have and will continue to figure out how to work together efficiently so they can both accomplish their goals. But at some point, they're going to be shipping on the same thing. That's the point. At some point, XAI, a lot of XAI's output is going to be into all these millions and billions of robots in the world. And at some point, the millions of robots that Tesla will push out of their factories will have XAI content directly loaded on them. It's actually already happening now with cars coming preloaded with Grok, and it's just going to grow from there. So that's the conversion. It's happening. It's happening in the products that Tesla is shipping now. So I don't know why this was such a controversial thing for people to talk about. No, they should never be together. To me, it's kind of strange.
I can tell you why the board is so reluctant. I don't think it is because they don't see the synergies and whatever. The problem was that at the moment it was set up, other than the fact, that engineers and new recruits wanted a startup rather than Tesla, whatever, we also were in the heat of the Tornetta case in Delaware. And I mean, these board members had to go through the toughest hearings. I wouldn't want to be a board member for any money of the world, going to that Chancery Court and hearing this judge asking them whether they are friendly with Elon, whether they feel it's enough friendly, a little bit more friendly, a little bit like that. I mean, it was disgusting. I am sorry. It was absolutely disgusting, with a decided decision anyway, because if you read finally her first and second verdict, nothing of it was really coming out of those hearings. But anyway, so you're a board member, you went through that. There is Elon saying, I need an AI company, I just bought Twitter. I mean, remember that mess, right? We went through so much as a shareholder, and they went through much. You are a board member, you're like, oh my God, do I need now an AI company? Is that what we really went for? And then it was set up the way it was set up. Again, I'm not happy about it. Jeff, you're not happy about it. We understand where it comes from. And then it just took too much time. Remember also, the last shareholder meeting was in June 2024. This year, it's November. Why was there suddenly this more than 1 year gap? It was because of this strange situation in Delaware. Last year, we came out of Delaware with the shareholder meeting. We became a Texas company. That opened the floodgate to a new compensation plan. That opened the floodgate in thinking of how could we substitute, if we lose Tornetta, the old compensation plan. So many other subjects were on the table, where every time they have to fear, I know we're in Texas, we're not in Delaware anymore, but they have to fear that they are perceived as being too loyal to Elon or being too generous with Elon. So their communication has to always be, very prudent, showing their independence. And I think the point where it crystallized was like, okay, let's not touch XAI. Let's just not touch it. And I'm not saying it was the right decision, but it could have been the drop that just, went overboard. And it couldn't have been decided before June 2024 anyway, right? And then since June 2024, since the moment we became a Texas company, it could have been decided, but actually the first decision is at the next shareholder meeting, which is the one in 4 weeks. So it's painful. It aggravates me, but it makes me, like I said, rather sad than mad. I hope they take it to heart. I understand why they would love to not touch it. If we want them to be forced to at least consider it, let's hope that the voting result is important. And that really depends on institutions as well, because I know retail has a lot of support for that, but the institutions who vote on the 5th of November, which again makes me say that Elon will be in a jolly good mood on the 22nd, because that is the last moment he can speak to these institutions.
Yeah, and I wasn't questioning the historical dynamics. I'm more questioning people today that are saying, well, of course they should be separate. To me, it doesn't make any sense today anymore. And of course we all wanted it earlier. So yeah, makes sense. What do we got, James?
I got two very short topics to go through next. This is the third part of the piece we just wrapped up regarding the AI convergence. It was Jensen, once again, he drops all these great breadcrumbs, but he said all the value in AI is in the AI stack. So I put together this little chart. It's very crude, but throw rocks at it if I'm wrong in any way. But there is the energy layer. And Jeff, I know you know energy, not only megapacks, but EOS energy and other things like that.
Ooh, name dropping EOS.
Yeah, there you go. For you, baby. And that powers the AI data centers, megapacks, etc. So think of energy. Then the chips layer, NVIDIA GPUs, AI5, AI6, whatever, does the heavy math. The infrastructure layer, the data centers, networks that run AI systems. Then the models layer. This is where it gets really important. The brains, AI models like Grok or other open source ones, DeepSeek, etc. And then the application layer. This is the piece that Jensen said. It really got my attention. He said, all the money is made in the application layer. I think he called it where the value is created at the top floor. Imagine it's a building. This is the top floor where AI becomes useful to people, like chatbots, self-driving cars, robots doing work, medical tools, all that type of stuff. I thought that was fascinating. But again, when you just look at this laid out like this, there's only one player that touches it all, does it all, from building silicon to having the energy, etc., etc. I thought that was extremely profound. Unless you guys disagree. Yeah.
No, it is. This vertical integration in engineering and supply chain are going to unlock operational and cost efficiencies that others will not be able to get to. This is their architecture for robotaxi is going to allow them to achieve a set of economics once it's at peak scale. Once that operation is running at peak, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for others to reach that. So this is why a lot of these industries end up in a margin share conversation versus a market share conversation. When you watch mainstream media, they're going to say BYD overtook this or they do. But let's talk about who's overtaking in margin share in building EVs. That's a completely different conversation, but it's a little bit more difficult and not as sexy to talk about on TV. But I think you're absolutely right in bringing this up. And of course, Jensen's going to say, well, look here, this is where all the value is going to be created. And yes, in the future, that's correct. But he's creating a whole hell of a lot of value with his picks and shovels right now at 70% gross margin. So this this approach that Tesla has taken from the base layer of silicon to how the vehicle is cleaned and charged, how your bot is going to be cleaned and charged, like this ability to have a services side and to have the ability to engineer and manufacture at scale is not found in one entity today. And the fact that you have to farm this out to get something like this built, the fact that OpenAI has to farm it out to Oracle, has to farm it out to AMD, has to farm it out to all these different things. And yes, there are other entities involved in what Tesla and xAI do, but it's significantly less than others that they are, quote unquote, competing with. So when they each get the scale, they will have different cost structures. So this is where you have to, as an investor, I don't want to give advice per se, but as you're looking at something, you can't just look at the existence of the service. You have to look at the economics of that service and how they're being, or that product and how they're being delivered. The two have to go together.
Sorry, the dog is jumping up on me.
James
okay, he's getting excited.
James Girl is wanting to be on camera.
Yes.
Get on the show.
All right. So I do have one last topic. No time for a quick round. This is just going to be a quick other thing that should concern us all. And this is, again, for both of you, the global situation. The question is, does China have the rest of the world over a barrel? So if you look at some examples here, DeepSeek beats OpenAI. That's open to question. BYD beats Tesla, open to question as well. Huawei beats Apple. Huawei beats US Telecoms. Cattle beats Lithium, etc. TikTok beats Instagram, and it goes on and on. The question is, where's the real threat coming from? And the point is, China are a formidable competitor. And Europe is missing some of these players too for now. But what I'm really worried about is how China is now threatening to cut off supply, like be a choke point for things like raw materials. This is a great chart that shows you how much they control. And Jeff, you know about supply chains and managing global supply chains, and how much of a threat is it, especially when you look at things like rare earth magnet exports. I looked at this and I couldn't believe how much Germany is dependent on China. China could turn
course
off
they are.
Germany in a heartbeat, and that's extremely alarming. So tell us here, where will all this go, Jeff? Is this a real concern for us? Like, there might be a grand vision of 100 million robots, but if there's no magnets, there's no robots.
Yes. The humanoids, I predict the humanoid supply chain will be more a more localized, if not primarily localized supply chain than the last major industry launch, which was smartphone that I helped. It was a part of at the beginning of ramping that up and through it getting to scale. I believe humanoids will be more localized, and I believe the wake up call has been received. The activity that I'm seeing relating to, I think the U.S. and China will still work together and will still partner, and I think this relationship is actually heading more towards warming up again in a friendly way than cooling off. But we've seen now a fairly volatile uh, peak that occurred here, call it between the first quarter of this year and where we are today, where even it started in the prior year of us shutting off access to chip making equipment, the premier chip making equipment, even stuff that's not even U.S. owned, but our allies own it. So we put export controls on them, and then they put export controls on rare earths. So in that chart, I don't think a lot of people understand rare earths need to be pulled from the ground and then they need to be refined. The refining, they have 99% refining capacity on a couple of the rare earths, and they have 90% refining of the world's supply. They have 90% of that refining capacity. That is the bottleneck and choke point. There are rare earths all over Earth, but the refining capacity is not there. They have around 350,000 metric tons of rare earth capacity, going to well over 400,000 here soon in the next couple of quarters. And we're arguably refined, just to give you an idea of the magnitude, in the U.S., we're arguably somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 metric tons of refined rare earth capacity. So 350 to 400,000, to 10 to 20,000 in the U.S. So you're going to see this convergence of supply chain. You're starting to see silicon move over into the U.S. So now you're going to start seeing, hopefully, more final assembly of product moving into the U.S. And now you're going to close that loop of the supply chain of the silicon and the brains and the actual assembly of the device. But we also have to solve for these materials, and China can shut off supply. So I do think we are headed more towards a bit of a warming than a cooling off. But at the same time, there will be strategic divergence occurring because they're not stopping with their military. They're not stopping with supply chain. They're not stopping with AI. They're not stopping with humanoid. They have been told to go pedal to the metal. We have to do the same thing. We have to create strategic divergence, and we have to go pedal to the metal here. And we have to have regulatory that allows it. We have to fix what we're doing on tariffs. We cannot be tariffing the inputs of what we're trying to build here when those inputs aren't in supply here. This could be an entire show for me. I could talk for a long time on it, but I'll cut it there.
No, really, really comforting feedback, actually.
Yeah.
Comforting.
You're the best.
Well,
are you done with your slides, or is there more?
I have one last slide. We try to keep it to
because
an
at the end, I want to have 2 more announcements.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
This is the very last one. This took me by surprise. Mainstream media giving Tesla credit. This is Time magazine. They have the 25 best inventions of all time, and Tesla Model S made it. That was my final point. Slides done.
Is good to know, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny story about Time. I made a comment about, I guess, somebody who was the top 100 or something, and all of a sudden, Mark Benioff pings me. He's like, "Well, he's answering my post," and I'm like, "Oh," and we kind of exchange, and then we exchange some, some chats later. Anyway, it's interesting how the editorial side of that magazine versus the leadership, there may be some divergence happening, but it's good to see them recognize Model S made EVs attractive.
Yep. Exactly. I put that up because I wanted to give you credit for that. And I've bumped into Mark Benioff a few times in the past too. He's a good guy, but he doesn't control his editorial board. But I think you smacked them around the face a little bit to at least be honest.
I think Tesla deserves that. So yeah, it's it is an amazing vehicle. It got me into Model S. Got me into EVs. If I didn't test drive a Model S and experience, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten into a Prius or whatever. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
That is true. Best cars ever. Can I do my two announcements quickly?
This is all you. Yeah, it's your show.
Roll.
It's my show. It's not my show. It's Herbert's show. We just stole it from him. So Herbert's on vacation for those who are worried, and he's going to come back in 3 weeks. Quick thing is, I got 2 books on Elon, The Musk Way and People of Earth. I haven't read either of them, but I just want to recommend them if anybody else wants to do that. The second thing that's important for me to convey is next week is the appeal in the Supreme Court of Delaware of the Tonetta case. It is on Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. And so 10 o'clock Eastern, and I don't know what time that's in Europe, I think 4 in the afternoon, and is live streamed. So we're going to go, Herbert, Richard, not legal advice, and myself, we're going to go live half an hour earlier, put that whole thing back in context, and then assist to the live stream. That's why we actually need Herbert, because technically I have no clue how I would do that. So Herbert is going to come and help us. That's next Wednesday morning, very early for Pacific time. So please, keep that in your agendas, because it's a time we're usually not there. I think it's going to be very interesting. If we win that appeal, which we will only know by beginning of next year, and who knows when, if we win that appeal, it's only obviously going to cost us much less money. And when I say money, it's actually dilution of our shares, right? And so if we win it, that would be great. We'll get a good temperature on the whole thing Wednesday morning. So please assist there. I would really appreciate it.
Alexandra, the Delaware Supreme Court, if they don't override it, aren't they just killing themselves even more?
They are. I think that they do understand that this is a crucial moment for the state of Delaware. Their reasoning is, well, we did change the law, so again, too late for Tesla, tough luck, you left anyway. But to everybody else, let's reassure you, we changed the law. We're constantly changing the law, and we changed the law. And it is true, under this new law, the judge of the Chancery Court could not have done what she did, right? But I mean, it is also true that they are trying to clean up without ever pronouncing the reason why they needed to clean up, right? So it's very politically driven. It's very, it's very complicated. And any company staying in Delaware, if we lose the appeal, is taking the risk, because there's so much more to it, right? Yeah. We all have become aware of the shenanigans of lawyers' fees in Delaware. In Delaware, everything costs 10 times more than anywhere else. So do you, as a shareholder of a public company, want your company to remain in Delaware after having assisted for the last 5 years, or actually more, it started in 2018, to what happened to the Tesla case, right? So I do believe they understand that this is a crucial moment. So this is a hearing before all 5 judges. There are 5 judges in the Delaware Supreme Court. While Delaware has been, like California, consistently a Democrat state, they make sure that there are always 3 Democrat judges and 2 Republican judges, right? So when all 5 will hear this, it will take maximum an hour. Usually it's even shorter, 40 to 45 minutes. It's very technical. I'm not saying we're going to enjoy listening to it, but I think the tone of it, because it's going to be mainly Tesla's lawyers talking, bringing their arguments forward. Obviously, Tonetta's lawyers are going to respond, but usually there's more airtime to the appellant in this case. So I think it's going to be interesting, especially for people who've never listened to these appeal cases in business law. And then the next point is, when will the verdict come? If the verdict comes very early next year, it may actually have an enormous impact on the corporate season of the spring. Let me explain that. In the spring are usually all shareholder meetings, Meta and whatever else, they all have it. So if the emotion is still high in January and people feel like, oh my God, why in the world are we staying? Why in the world is the company I'm invested staying in Delaware? There will be a lot of shareholder proposals to move out. And I think they want to avoid that. So I think they will delay that verdict until most of the deadlines to bring forward shareholder meetings, because you have to bring them very early in the year for it to be considered in 2026. They will wait for the verdict so that season is over, that shareholder proposals are not accepted anymore, then bring the verdict. So it's going to be really late, like April, May, further down the road, so that the whole emotion can settle before the 2027 corporate season.
Awesome. Good input. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we survived without Herbert. Put in your comments whether you were missing Herbert. Send him a lot of love. He's going to read this from Japan when he's eating his sushi and having his family vacation. And we will be back next Thursday with the Cyber Bulls, next Wednesday morning with that appeal in Delaware. And James, obviously, thank you so much.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, well, I thank you all for allowing me to be here, and also for all the great insights and inputs. It's really phenomenal. So thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Lots in the chat too.
Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.